Hope I'm audible, right?
Yes, loud and clear, and we can see your screen as well.
Yeah. So, hi all, good morning and good afternoon. Myself, Pranav. I'm working on Xamarin from more than 6 years. And today I'm going to discuss the Xamarin UI test with you guys. So, let's start with the agenda. So, we'll start with the introduction of the UI test. We'll get a briefing about how the Xamarin UI test work. Then we'll see the architecture for the Xamarin UI test. We'll go to the setup, how we can set up our Xamarin UI test. Then we'll go deep into it and we'll see how we can query the elements and all. And the last topic will be we came across a scenario sometime where we can't do the things. It's related to automation, Xamarin UI test. So there comes a scenario where we don't know how to do the stuffs or we don't have a way to do it. So how we are going to tackle with that situation, we are going to see in the last topic. So let's start with the introduction. Yeah. So Xamarin UI test is a testing framework. So it's developed by Xamarin, and with the Xamarin UI test, we can test our Android and iOS application. And it's not only for the Xamarin application, you can even go ahead and test your native applications that are made on Swift and Android. Yeah. So let's go to the architecture for it. So mainly our Xamarin UI test interact with the Xamarin UI test cloud, which uses Calabash. So what exactly Calabash is? Calabash allow you to write test cases in Ruby using Cucumber. So Calabash enable us to do the automation stuff for Android and iOS. So our Xamarin UI test internally uses Calabash to do the automation stuff. Now we'll start with the setup for Xamarin UI test. So, yeah. So we'll create a new solution. So here we are getting an option to add App Center test, that is automation UI. So we have clicked it. So a solution has been created. So let's go through the structure. Here is our Xamarin UI test application that has been created. So as of now, we can see it has two things. One is app initializer and the other is test. So let's go through that, what exactly that does. So app initializer class, what we do, we get the instance of our application, and on that we are going to perform the automation. So there are different ways to get that particular application. One way could be your Xamarin UI test can be part of your solution, and how we get the instance of our application is, if you see here, we have added, we have added the test app. So the test app added to this particular project is SampleXam UI test Android and iOS. So this particular app has a reference of Android application as well as iOS application. So once our app initializer will call, it will return the Android app instance. It will launch, it will build our Android app for Android, and it will launch the app. And after that, our test case execution will start. The same happens even with the iOS. But yeah, there can be situation here where we don't want this to be part of our application. Like there can be scenario where I have to go to some other build which is part of some other application, or we are getting some issues which are there in, and we have to test in the backward back builds. So how we are going to achieve it? So we'll see it here. So this is the configure part that we were seeing it on the app side. So there are different ways to start the application. One way could be like I already have an installed app on my device. So I just need to get the bundle ID of that device and I'll put it as an installed app. We can use either of installed app.apk.debug. So we have already discussed about the .debug part. So .debug will just build our app. It will launch on the device, and from there onwards, we can start with the testing part. The other will be installed app. I'll get some app from maybe App Center or anywhere or a APK, and I want it my automation to be performed on that particular build. So in that case, I'll be using .installed app, and .installed app will get the instance of the installed app from my device, and it will start with the execution. The other way can be I can put the APK file as a part of my solution, and from that solution, that APK file will be deployed on my device, and from there onwards, I can start with the execution. Let's go to the solution. Yeah. So we have pretty much covered about the app initializer part. That app initialization, we can do it in 3 ways. Let's go and see how the test execution works. So setup will be this particular attribute will be the first one to be called when we are going to execute our test cases. So what this will do, it will get the instance of the application calling the start app, which is already there in our app initializer part. And we have already discussed it, that how it returned the app instance. So here we have got the app instance. This test attribute is given like it's a single test. Like suppose we are going to add 10 tests here. So each test will be starting with that particular test attribute. So it will be recognized as a single text. So here what the user is trying to do, the Xamarin has already created a sample test case for us. So here we are trying to get the app results. We'll discuss this later, how these queries work. So we'll just get a brief of it, how it's working. So here we are, from the results, we are trying to query anywhere on the screen. Are we able to see welcome.xamarin forms? If we are able to get any result, just give me assert.true. So now what we'll do, we'll try to execute this particular test case and we'll see how it works. So here we can see we have our test cases. The test cases are for Android and iOS. Right now we are going to execute it on Android. So the test case you can see here, as we have given this test attribute, the name you can see here, it's coming as welcome text is displayed. So we are going to test that now. So we'll just right click on it and we'll do the run test. Here at the bottom, you can see the test results are getting displayed. So yeah, we are able to see this welcome to Xamarin Forms, and that's what our test case is supposed to do. So at the bottom, if you can see, we are getting the test result and it's showing the test result is passed. So that was one of the basic automation that we have done. Now we'll dive deep into it. Yeah, before that, I would like to take any question which is related to the setup part. Durgesh, hope it's okay, right?
Yep, that should be fine, Pranav.
Yeah. So
we need to have we need to have the session as engaging as it can be. Yep. So guys, let us know how many of you are using Xamarin UI Test or any other automation framework to automate your UI tests. I'm not sure from my experience, I could say like in most of the projects, usually when we are running out of time and all right, we make these unit testing and UI testing, we keep this on hold. But especially when you work for the standard repositories, especially Xamarin Forms, right? Xamarin Forms code repository. These things are kind of, as part of the pull request template itself, you'll find it mandatory kind of. So you'll not lose. So from my experience, what I can suggest is like you can keep this as part of your pull request templates itself within your organization, so that we don't as much as possible we can have that UI test coverage too. Probably Pranav can add from his experience, because he is the part of COE at Mindtree, where they are building these automation frameworks, especially for the topics where we cannot handle things in with Xamarin UI tests. So yep.
Yeah, so I have a question from John. So he wanted to know, can we run Android and iOS tests parallel to save time? Yes, John, we can do it. You can put this on an App Center cloud, and the App Center will take care of executing your test cases on different devices. Right now, we are doing it manually. So one way you can do it is you can have a parallel solution or parallel branches, one for Android and one for iOS, and you can run the suite. Or the other way can be you can put it on a cloud. That probably will try to cover in some future sessions. So you can put it on a cloud, and from cloud you can execute it parallelly on Android and iOS. So yes, we can do that. So yeah, let's move further. So now I have already created an app here. So what this app does, like we'll try to log into app. So we have covered different scenarios, like when we are giving the wrong password, or when the username is not correct, or there's one other thing which I'm going to cover at the end, that there is one functionality which we can't achieve it using the UI test case automated, but yeah, we have achieved it. So how we have done it, we are going to like take it further. So here we have created an app. So let's begin from starting. That the first thing is app initializer class. So it will be same for your application everywhere. Like you will get the instance of your application, and as I have already told, there will be 3 ways to do this automation. You can do it on the installed app. You can put it as a part of your solution. As here I have taken the reference of my test app for both Android and iOS. Or the third way can be you can keep the IPA file as a part of your solution, and you can execute it. So the APK will get built on your device, and from there you can start the execution. So as of now, we have taken the solution as a part of my reference, and we are executing the test cases. So here, what we do is normally, like in the sample, we have seen that the guy is trying to get the instance of that particular welcome to Xamarin Forms, and he's putting it as a part of that particular test. But that doesn't look good, because in the future, suppose I have some 10 functionality, and everywhere I need to log in, go to dashboard, and then I have to do some certain stuffs. So every time we can't go ahead and put all that logic in all the test cases. So a good way to be execute this particular thing is we create a page for every screen. So here I have a login screen. So I have created a page for login screen, and I have a dashboard screen. So I have created a page for dashboard screen. Let me show you the app first. So it's a simple app. Normally we are going to put the email ID, password, we'll try to log in, and after that a dashboard screen will appear where we are going to show the success message to the user. So we have automated this flow. Now we are going to see how this works. So as I've already told, for each screen, it's good to create a page, and that particular page instance we will be using in our test. So every time we don't have to write all this, we'll be knowing that for getting a particular element, we have already written a function. So we'll call that function and it will do the execution. So it's good to follow this page-based model for automation. So here we have written a test for login. So what we are doing is first we'll go through these query elements, how it works. Actually, each element we are using. So if you will see the application, here I have 3 elements that I have to use. First is email, the other is password, and the last one is login button. So I have to get the reference of all the 3 to do the execution. So this particular elements will be returned in a form of query. So I have 3 elements here. The first one is username, the next one is password, and the last one is button. So now how we will get the reference of it? Let's go to the application. We'll see our main page. So here you can see, if you'll see the entries, we have given some automation IDs here. So each element will be having an automation ID, and that particular automation ID, we will be using it in our query to get that particular element. So here for the password, actually there are 3 parameters which we can use to query the elements. One is marked. Let's go to the PowerPoint and we'll see that. Yeah. So there are 4 ways to get it. The first is app.query, and we'll put that particular element, we'll put that particular string, what we are trying to get, or particular element ID. So app.query will give you that particular ID. The second thing can be, we can use it x.id to get the element ID. So the accessibility ID we have given, this particular ID will try to match with the accessibility ID, and the element that matches, it will return in the form of the query. The third thing can be x.mark. So what x.mark does, it will try to search for the IDs. If it's not able to get that particular ID, it will again try to search for the text. Suppose if we'll see this application, here we have given the login button. So if suppose we have given some wrong ID there, so what it will try to do, if I have given login x.mark and in the accessibility ID I have provided login, so it will first try to search for the accessibility ID. If nothing is find with the login accessibility ID, it will again try to search with the text, that somewhere is it able to find the login text. If it is able to find that particular text in our screen, it will return that to our query. The next thing is text field. So for a text field, if you have provided any accessibility ID, it will return us in the form of the query. And the last thing is x.text. So as we have already seen the marked, so marked work as a combination of ID and text. It will first search for the ID. If the ID is not present, it will search for the text. And x.text will search for a text present on the screen. If it will find any element matching that text, it will return in the form of query. So we'll go to our solution. Yeah. So here we are using x.mark to get the IDs. So we have created a automation ID constant. So we'll go there and see what all things it have. So if you will match it with the main page.xaml, whatever text password we have given, if we'll see, so we are giving the same IDs here in our automation constant, and we'll be using it on this page. So as we have created the queries for login, password, and button, we are trying to get that particular element querying that automation ID. So once we have got all these automation IDs, now we are going to execute the test case. So the first thing is like normally our app takes some like it will show the splash screen, then after that we'll go to login screen. So what I'm trying to do, I'm waiting for the element user time password, and I'm giving a time of out for 30 seconds. So if in that 30 second, if it will not find that username text field, our test case execution will fail. So sometime it happens a scenario where we are calling some services and we need to wait for some 2 or 3 minutes to get the service respond, and then we want to proceed with the automation stuff. So in that case, we can change the timeout time to maybe 2 minutes and 3 minutes. So our particular execution will wait for that much time to get that element. If that element it will not get in that particular time, the test case will fail. So next, what we are trying to do, we are tapping on the username text field. So this is our username. So I'm tapping on it. So right now I'm showing it manually, and then we'll see how automation does it. App.intertext username. So this username will be passed from our test. So if I'll go here, from here I'm calling my test case success, and I'm passing the username and password. So even these username and password we have stored in the automation ID constant class. So these are the user credentials which we are going to use for the automation. So we'll enter the text. So what it will do, app.tap will tap on this particular field, whatever we have tapped manually. Then we have given the enter text. So manually we are giving the enter text. Now our automation will take care of entering that text. Next, it will dismiss the keyboard. Why we are putting the dismiss keyboard functionality here? Actually, what we have seen, the elements which are visible on the screen, only it will take care of all that elements. So right now we have keyboard coming up. So our password field is not visible. So if I'm not putting this dismiss keyboard command, probably it will try to search on the visible screen and it will not find this password field, and our test case will fail. So dismiss keyboard, it will dismiss your keyboard. Then we are going to tap on the password field. We are going to enter some password. We'll again dismiss the keyboard because we are going to click on the login button, and our login button will be clicked. So now let's try to see how we are doing it with automation. I'll try to run this test case. So here I have actually created 3 test cases. As you can see, the one is backdoor method, which we are going to discuss after this. One is check login success and check login success with wrong credential. I try to pass the wrong credential to my login, and we'll see whether our test case fails or pass. So let's try to execute this test case. So here at the bottom, we can see our test case is running. So yeah, it's entering the username, it's entering the password, and yeah, it got success. So if you will see at the bottom, our test case got passed, and we have seen, we have got a report here that one test case is passed. Now let's try a negative scenario where we are passing the wrong credentials. Okay, so here our test case got failed as we have provided the wrong credentials. So right now we are still seeing this running test case. Why it's happening like that is, it's trying to wait for that particular element. Like here we have given the, if we'll go to login test, here it's waiting for the dashboard page. So we haven't provided any wait for it. So by default, it will wait for some 15 seconds. and now our test case got failed. And if we'll see what is the reason for it, it's waiting for the success message, but it hasn't found it. So it has waited for 30 seconds. So 30 seconds is the default time which our execution will wait for any element. So it was waiting for 30 seconds, but didn't find the element. So our test case got failed. So here we have seen some of the scenarios where we can automate all the elements. So like even now we have covered the execution part. So I'd like to take the questions if anyone have anything, so they can go ahead and ask. Any questions?
So far, so good. I guess, Pranav.
Okay, okay, Durgesh. So we'll continue.
I think you are on mute, Pranav.
Oh, sorry, Durgesh. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, what I was telling is now we are going to discuss one of the very critical things. That is a relation between a developer and a tester that is not at all good in any organization. We normally fight, and a fight goes on between developer and tester. So there comes a scenario when my developer is not ready to give me the automation IDs. He's telling it's your work to do the automation, but I don't have IDs, so I can't do it. So there comes a scenario where I don't have automation IDs, and even I'm not getting support from the development team to get the automation IDs. So is there a way that for every element I can go ahead and query for an element and I can get the element ID? So we'll see how we can do that. So right now I don't know any of these IDs, and the developer hasn't provided that. So now I have to get all these IDs. I doesn't know anything. What is username? What is password? So there's a command with the name REPL. So with our app instance, we are going to call this REPL command and we'll see what will happen. So as of now, I have removed everything and I'm again going to run my test case. So we'll see what happens. Okay. So here, as you can see, we have got this REPL command prompt open. So what we are going to do here, we are going to type tree, TREE. So from this particular query, we'll get all the elements that are present are on a screen, and it will be in the tree order. Like the first element we'll see at the top. So the first element is, which we are going to use with the label, is text email. The next is text password, and the last one is BTN login. So we have got the automation IDs for our element using this app.repl command. So once I have all these IDs, I'm going to put it in my automation ID constant, and I'm going to execute my test case. So it's one of the very useful command that UI test automation has provided. With that app REPL, you'll get the tree structure of your screen. And from that, you can pick the automation ID constant and you can start working on it. So as we have got our ID, I'll terminate this. So now we have got all our element IDs. So we are going to remove this app.REPL. So mainly you have to use it when you have to get the element ID and you are not known to it. So normally a query can be based on the, right now we don't have text for any of the element as we are using the text field. If you are using a label, probably you will get the automation ID as well as the label for that element. So you can use x.mark, or even if you have got the text, you can use x.text. So it will query for that particular text and it will give you the result. Let's go to our slide. So what are the selectors that are available for selecting the elements? So the first one is tap, that we have already seen. So we are tapping on it. So a keyboard comes up and we can enter the credentials or whatever we want to enter. App.intertext. So intertext will put the text, whatever text we want. So the particular element ID, we need to put it here and we need to put the text we want to enter into the particular entry field. So it will put that particular text. Clear text. Suppose there comes a particular scenario where on entering a particular text in the entry field, we want to validate that particular text and we want to give the error message. So in a situation like that, we have to enter a text in that particular entry field. We'll see whether that validation message is coming or not. Or if it is, firstly, we'll try putting it a wrong message and we'll see validation is coming. After that, we have to clear that particular entry field. We have to again put some text and we'll see if we are providing a valid text, whether that error message is coming or not. So for that, we'll be using the clear text. So for that clear text, we'll just pass the element ID and it will clear off whatever text we have entered in that particular entry field. Even app.wait for element we have seen. So it will wait for the element, whatever accessibility ID we will be providing. So it will wait for a predefined time of 30 seconds, but even that time is configurable. So if we want to put it like 1 or 2 minutes, if we are doing a service call and we need some time to do that. So but we have even seen how we can give the time span for which we need to wait to get that element. Now comes a scenario, what to do with the functionality which can't be automated directly. So what we have seen is normally when we are automating a project and it has a lot of complex functionality to be done, normally with the automation framework like APM and all, we can achieve up to 60, 65 and a max of 70. And that's what we have even got the result when we are working with the APM. Now, when we switch to this Xamarin UI test and we started implementing the UI test, there comes a scenario where we have covered only 55 or 60% of the test cases. And after that, like we have marked most of the test cases that can't be automated. So later, but like with the Xamarin UI test evolution, they have introduced a method using which right now we have achieved 95% of the automation in a very complex project that involved a lot of map manipulations and all. And even including all that, we have achieved 95% of the automation for our project. So now we are going to see how we can do that, or what is that magic which makes us come from 55 to 95. That's a backdoor method. And definitely it's a legal thing. Yeah. So how this backdoor method works, backdoor method gives us a introduction, or it's give us the exposure, as we already have an instance of our application. So in our application, we'll export or we'll put some of the UI test reference, and from that particular reference we'll write a code in our Xamarin project, that is native iOS project or native Android project. And if we want to return something from that, our unit our automation test will call that particular function. It will return us the result, and using that result probably we can pass or fail the test case. One of the complex scenarios can be we have some 10 markers on our map, and I want to tap on one of the markers and I can see whether particular screen is opening or not on tapping of the marker. So that tapping of the marker is one of the major functionality what we are covering in our application, and we were not getting a way to automate it. So using this backdoor, we have given it a try, and it was quite easy to implement tapping on that particular marker. And we are going to see how this backdoor method works, or how we can work with this backdoor method. So first we'll go through some key points what this backdoor method have, or the constraint this backdoor method have. So the backdoor method return type will be either string or void. So it can there is a functionality that you only want to app to perform. You don't want it to be returned to your UI test, or you don't want to return a particular query to your UI test. In that case, you can put it as void, or its return type can be a string. Suppose there is a way that I want to return how many markers are there on my map. So that I'll return it in the form of a string, and that string we can convert into int, or even that string you can return a JSON object or whatever you want. That particular string you can convert it into any type, but the return type should be string or void. And our backdoor method only accept a string, int, or bool as a parameter. So from your backdoor method, if you want to pass some parameters, so in my case, I was taking trips and I have to pass a trip ID to my backdoor method to see how many trips that particular trip ID have. So I'll be passing the trip ID from my UI test. That will be get passed to my Xamarin Android and Xamarin iOS application, and it will return me back how many trips are particularly active for me, and based on that I can pass or fail my test case. So let's go to the backdoor method and see how we can achieve that. Yeah. So the only thing we need to do to invoke the backdoor method is write app.invoke send app. So right now what I'm trying to achieve with the backdoor method, actually there is a functionality that you send the app to like you log in, you go to some other screen, you send the app to background, you bring it back to foreground and see whether that particular screen is displaying, or it will be showing up the first screen, whatever our app has. So that's what the functionality we are trying to achieve with this backdoor method right now, and we'll see how it's implemented. So from our app side, from our UI test project side, what we need to do, we need to write app.invoke, and inside we need to write the name of our backdoor method. So how it has been implemented, we are going to see in our Android code. We'll open our main activity. So here the namespace which we have used is java.interop.export. It will export this background method, or it will expose this background method to my test case UI test. So this is the mandatory thing. And if you can see the signature here and the signature, whatever I have given it for this is same. So inside that, it's a normal Android method, whatever I have written. So like I'm going to press the home button. After that, I'm going to start the previous activity back. So that's what I'm going to achieve it here. So when we were trying it with the UI automation with the iOS, we can send it to background and we can bring it back for the iOS app, we already have a functionality in UI test automation, but in Android, it has not been done yet. So in automation, we got blocked because of this thing, and we just came across backdoor method, and then we can see it's quite easy to implement that. So we'll see how our backdoor method work. So here I'm going to execute this send app to background that is already there in my. So what I'm doing as a part of this backdoor method, I'm calling login success. So we'll be going to dashboard page. We'll be checking whether the dashboard page is displayed or not. After that, I'm going to call, if you'll go to this particular function, it's the backdoor method, which is exposed from our Android app. So I'm going to call that particular function. And after coming back, I'm going to check whether I'm on the same page or the page got changed, something like that. So now let's run and see how it works. So I'm going to run my backdoor method. You'll see it's running the test case. It's entering the username. Let's try to run it once more. Okay, this is because on the login page here I have marked it as text. It should be marked. That's cool. It's good to go. Let's run our test. So our app is sent to background. No, it's still trying to restart. Okay. Yeah. So our app got installed. Username is entered. Password is entered. It's trying to log in. Success message came. It has sent the app to background. That's what our backdoor method is doing. Then it will bring it back in 15 seconds. So let's wait for it. It got back. And yeah, we can see it's still the same screen is displayed. So if you'll see, our test case got passed, and that's how we have executed our backdoor method. So we have even pretty much covered about the backdoor method. So let's start with the question part. So you guys can unmute and you can ask the questions you have.
That was really interesting, Pranav. Yeah, guys, if you have any questions, please continue. Yeah.
Thanks so much for the presentation. That was awesome. I'm wondering, do you know if there's a way to automate something like enabling permissions to view the device photos?
Yes, you can do that. And probably I'll put it I haven't like linked my GitHub here. So probably it's a good scenario for me to automate because I'm just exploring this backdoor thing. So I'll take it as one of my tasks and I'll be doing it soon. So probably I'll be posting it in the Zamniers group on Facebook, so you can have a look. You can like have an eye on that. I'm going to do it soon. So yes.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
Yeah. Hi, Pranav.
Hi.
Is there any way to like capture image and display it in our screen using automation?
You want to take a photo with a camera?
Yes, Pranav.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, so like, can you provide anything like any like sample case of that?
Actually, the problem with the Xamarin UI test is you are not going to get samples anywhere. So that's where I have struggled, and I got a lot of things to work on. But definitely, how we can take it forward is anyone who has queries and they are not able to automate any of the thing, they can put it on our Facebook page, X-Hackers Facebook page, and I'll take all the scenarios and I'll be putting it on a GitHub and I'll share the solution. So you can put your scenarios and I'll try to achieve it as soon as possible, and I'll put it on GitHub and share the link.
Yeah, thanks, Pranav. Like, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yeah. And also try to check with Swiki Satpati from Xamarin team. I mean, I know she does a lot of stuff with UI test and test automation at Xamarin. So she usually has a like range of code samples and demos. So I mean, just check with her too. I mean, you can follow her on social media, Twitter. She's available. So yeah, try to check with her as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Zurbi.
So Durgesh, in the chat, is there any question for me, because I cannot see those questions? So if there's
no, we were all absorbing information related to Xamarin UI tests. No questions, but anyways, like if people can unmute themselves and if they had any questions related to collection view and Visual State Manager, Himanshu is with us. You can unmute yourself and you can ask. Or anything related to your Xamarin projects which you are working on too. I can take this opportunity. Like I have a couple of questions, Himanshu. Like one of the thing, first of all, it was a really good session. Both of these sessions, filled with your experience working on these modules. I think with Xam collection view, one of the thing which I was trying when working with, it's good that you have showcased the performance tips as well, because I was working on one of this app which was like having more than thousands of items in your collection, and I was facing a lot of issues with list view. And fortunately, collection view was introduced that time, and I tried to use it. So I was discussing this in chat also. Like we face this issue related to locking and thread synchronization, right? Especially when we are working with multiple APIs, a kind of a aggregation, blog aggregation kind of. So you call multiple APIs, those will return you data, and then you try to refresh that as part of the collection view. So I was facing a lot of duplicate related issues, and personally, just honestly, I wanted to tell that those sort of tricks are really helpful. And like it can be solved with basics like locking and semaphores and all, but yeah, good to have that. So have you ever I mean,
yeah.
yes, one of the question I was having, like I was using this monkey cache, also I started
Yeah.
using it for my couple of my personal apps, but
Mhm.
I wanted to check, like have you ever used it in production ready apps, or did you have any issues? Do you find any issues with that in our production apps?
No, so actually that is kind of a light storage. Just it stores in the form of a file, not exactly in the form of a database or a table. So haven't used in those scenarios. That is something you can just take an example of a Facebook application. If you see a Facebook application, just switch off your network and just launch the Facebook. You won't see the blank screen. You'll see some of those feeds which were where you have stopped using that application. That is still showing some of the feeds. So that is what very I'm not sure. Facebook might be using something else, but similar to those kinds of scenario we can use, but not on production. I haven't encountered yet.
Okay, cool. Good to know. And about Xamarin UI test, I had this question that Pranav, you were showing us that REPL, right? Which shows us this tree, the hierarchy of our elements on our screen. So is this like available for community version also? Because I remember there was this earlier also, there was this feature from Xamarin which through which you can, get to know your complete hierarchy, but it was available only for the enterprise edition of Visual Studio, similar to Xamarin Profiler. So is this
Actually,
wrapper? Yeah,
please
is
go
this
ahead.
something? Yeah, I was just checking. Like, is this something available for community edition?
Yes, actually, even on my system, I'm using community edition. So yes, we can do that.
Yeah, cool. Good to know that. Mhm. There is this question. Can you please share the recordings? Yes, Shruti. Thanks for joining in today's meetup. I'll be collating all the slides, demo code, and recordings. And we'll be sharing our link on our social channels on Meetup. So you can find the recordings for this session. Yeah.
So just one thing to share. Can I just share my screen actually? This last one.
Yep, sure.
Pranav, can you please just stop this moment?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all these examples are there in my GitHub. So whatever I have just showed you, just go and have a look. Visual State Adaptive Layout Sample Collection View and that news demo. And this one is working now. That orange color on a click is not going. So you can see a light gray background, which is controlled via Visual State Manager. And the last thing, since I showed everything on Android, it's same exactly working on iOS also. So there is no any platform specific code is written for iOS, just to make sure no confusion should be there. So the same examples of whatever I was using on Android. These are exactly on iOS. How exactly are you looking? Same grid layout, these examples. Same this infinite scroll, pull to refresh, and you're getting this loader here. You can customize the loader to make look good. All right, so
Thank you,
again, and for
Himanshu.
this one, again for this news thing, again this news API yesterday so there was some different headlines, and this is somewhere you can see the image URL might be started. It's not loading. That's what I have kept a placeholder image. So it's good to have some information like this. Again, the same thing. Just a moment for the dark theme also. It's like this only. Dark theme for iOS. It's exactly working as I have Android. And the last one is for this adaptive layout. The portrait, it is like this. You can just customize. You can play with some grid structure. You can make use of this screen area. I'll just rotate it and automatically shifting in this way. So that's what I just wanted to share.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Himanshu, for recording the iOS part as well. There is one question from Ravi, like, are there any selection strategies that collection view support?
Selection strategy, yes, is a multiple or a single selection you can have. You want to have, is that a question?
Yeah, sorry. That's not a question. Like my question is like, selection strategy means like a long tap, single tap, or like double tap.
No,
Kind.
so that is not supported by directly with any particular property. You have to have some custom renderer events which you have to define in the native, and then you have to call back that event to your ECL.
Yeah, yeah. So Rakesh, here for that question, right? I think for collection view implements the recycler view in the code behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So a long click event is there for recycler view. I think he can customize that.
Yeah. I think you have to customize the event specific to the data template. Let's say it's a frame. So you have to put a gesture for a frame. That case it will work, or need to check whether directly you can have a selected item event. You can just need to modify there also.
Yeah, like I have seen like one NuGet will support that.
Okay, might be I haven't seen that NuGet. So if it is there, then probably it should be
That's
good.
paid one. Let me check once.
Usually it is done like that way. You have to define one delegate, and then through the delegate you will pass the event from your native to your this portable library.
All right. I think I can do a wrap up since we are having 3 minutes left. Let me share my slide. Yep. And first of all, one more update, and I think I'm not sure if Pranav has shared this during his session. I couldn't recollect, but so regarding UI test, Pranav is an active, like contributor at C# Corner too. So you can follow him, and he writes a lot of great things about UI tests in Xamarin. So just you can get in touch with him if you have any, shout out to Pranav. For this particular contribution, if you relative want to dive into Xamarin UI tests, so feel free to get in touch with him. All right, so thank you to our speakers, Himanshu and Pranav, today for joining in and sharing your experience and content with us. It really takes a courage, and especially spending your weekend with us. And we are really grateful for that. And thank you to audience also, our X-Hackers user group members who have, we are trying to revive this community, continuing our virtual session. So just let us know how do you feel about this, and going forward, if you would like to, what other content, what other presentations, or either hackathons maybe virtually you would like to have. So just get in touch with us, be part of the community, and for our next meetup, I'll be posting details soon. And currently we are also looking for call for speakers for our user group. So on the slide you can see this link, which if you are interested for presenting about Xamarin, even though it could be related to your day-to-day jobs which you are having, if you're following any best practices, any module, tool, plugin you have worked with, you find it useful to share with us, feel free to submit your proposal on this link, and we can plan to include you for our upcoming meetups. So I hope these virtual sessions are useful for you, and today's day was useful for you. Any feedback, I'll be sharing an email, and with the recordings at the feedback link, you can provide us there. All right. If we don't have any other questions, we can wrap up. Let me just quickly check a look. Okay. Thank you, Kathirvelo. Thank you everyone for joining today. Hope you have a good day.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks everyone.